So SRAM's back in the headlines this week over a safety recall they've issued on loose brake levers. They've admitted there's an issue with the faulty clamp inside the brake lever hood on some of their products. It appears the faulty bolts aren't tightening properly, and SRAM admits there's a risk that the levers could move, causing a rider to crash. SRAM says the recall affects all 12-speed ETAP, Axis Red, Force, Rival and Apex shift brake levers produced before the 1st of July 2023. They say this only affects aftermarket products and that bikes assembled by a qualified mechanic are not affected. However, we've already seen a couple of comments online from people saying they've had this issue with levers installed by a mechanic. Customers have been warned to stop using the recalled brake levers immediately and inspect them even for tightness. The company has asked concerned customers to check the tightness of their brakes, sharing a guide and video tutorial on Instagram, and we're going to share a link to anyone listening on our video/podcast so you can check if it affects you.
I don't think this is a real recall at all.
What does that mean?
I mean, it's literally a recall.
It is a recall, but it's not in the sense of, if we take, for instance, the last one, Shimano's cranksets were cracking. There's nothing wrong with the bolts. There's just too much Loctite on there. So when you tighten it up, if you're using a torque wrench, you're going to get a false torque reading. It's like wet torquing and dry torquing.
So that sounds like a fault to me.
Yeah, that is a problem.
It is, but what I mean is...
It's not going to snap, but that's still a fault.
But generally speaking, different handlebars are different. So in the bike shop, we use torque as an idea of what the maximum is. But in essence, really, you have to tighten the levers up and then apply a slight bit of pressure to see if they move or don't move. You don't want them too tight, because if they're too tight, you can crack the bars. Or if you crash, your lever is going to break. So I actually, on my own bike, make my levers slightly looser, just so that in case if I have a crash, they move. So it's a whole thing of a competent mechanic would tighten it up and just put a bit of pressure, okay, they're moving or they're not moving, and then based off that, decide if it's tight enough. So the other thing is, I know, speaking to SRAM before, all you'd have to do is loosen the bolt, tighten it, loosen, tighten it about 3 times, and that will just wear off the excess Loctite, and that's your problem fixed. So you don't really need new bolts. SRAM has made them available. They've told us they are there if anybody is insistent that they want them, but it's not you don't need them, if that makes sense. For us in a shop, I'll never order the bolts, and we will just fix the problem by loosening and tightening them.
I guess that's why they're saying if it was installed by a qualified mechanic, you're probably not going to have a problem, because they're going to understand that the torque reading isn't matching what's happening.
And that's not just SRAM, that's all levers. The other thing is that why are they saying it's for aftermarket? I think this is aimed at people that have gone on the internet or at a shop and bought a set of levers in a box and walked away if they tried to fit it themselves at home. That's what it's actually aimed for.
Yeah. Which is legitimate. I guess you have to deal with these kind of things.
I think they're trying to get ahead of so that it's not a problem. Obviously, you don't want your levers to slip. But yeah.
Where I disagree with you is if something has a torque rating and you fix it to that torque rating and it isn't attached to the bar with the torque rating that you fixed it to, then there is a fault with it.
But the whole torque rating thing is a massive farce, really, if you think about it. So the big thing is torque ratings are thrown out by manufacturers all over the place. Some manufacturers don't actually give you torque ratings, but there's a difference. So if you're a mechanic and there's a torque rating on a bolt for a set amount, but a mechanic then takes that bolt and greases it, that torque rating changes completely. So it's a bit of it's a guideline. It's not actually a set truth. So you need to see, some manufacturer will tell you whether it's wet torquing or dry torquing, whether it needs lube or doesn't need lube, because all of that changes. Loctite completely changes the torque, because it'll get to that max torque much quicker than if it was a greased bolt.
Bear in mind, we're not talking about mechanics now. We're talking about members of the public.
No, but that's what I mean. This is a problem. So it's one of those things of you need to take everything with a pinch of salt. It doesn't work. It's not an exact science. It is technically exact science, but the cycling industry is all over the place, and it's not giving you the exact things.
I think what I'm getting from what you're saying is just because a torque rating says 7 Newton meters, you still have to check stuff. Yeah,
because you'll get loads of seat posts slip, and you'll read the torque rating 7 Newton meters. You talk of 7 Newton slips. You ring the manufacturer, you know what they tell you? I'll try 8 or 9 Newton meters. Well, is it 7 or is it 8 or 9? It's more of a dark art than this whole wheel building thing that people say is a dark art. It's just one of those that it comes with a bit of experience. You'll just realize everybody will still get it wrong sometimes, but it is just...
Well, yeah, that's ultimately why they're working on the basis of if a mechanic's installed it, they should have the experience and expertise to be able to work out what's going on.
Yes, and your levers aren't going to just slip off the handlebars and be gone. It's literally going to be, it'll slide down half a centimetre or so if it was to loose.
Which can cause a crash.
I was about to say, we shouldn't underplay this because SRAM themselves are saying, stop using the levers. They might cause a crash. It's good that they're taking responsibility for it, as they should. I wonder whether the crankgate thing that happened with Shimano is it's probably one of the driving forces behind why they're getting in front of this early. They're making sure that they're resolving it, which they should.
Because crankgate was denied for months and months or for years.
Years, yeah.